Welcome to episode 20 of KrassenCast. Just give us a few minutes, a few seconds here, and we will be right with you. Well, here we are. I'm Ed Krassenstein here with Brian Krassenstein for episode number 20 of KrassenCast. Wow, 20 already. It's gone fast. And we had that long break in between too, so it really went fast. Anyhow, we have a lot to talk about today, and I realize we're both wearing the same shirt today. That was not done on purpose. We both just decided to wear black V-neck t-shirts today. For those who don't know, we're also taping this live on Facebook, so that's why our dress and our apparel actually matter. Yes, that's right. Because if you're listening to this on iTunes and you don't care and you don't know what we're wearing. Anyhow, let's get on to the show. We have a few things to talk about, and that includes Trump's attacks on American Jewish people once again. We will also talk about his childish ways of, getting rejected on his proposal to buy Greenland. And we're going to take some questions from members on Facebook who follow us. If you want to follow us on Facebook, you can follow us. Just search for Krassenstein Brothers. This podcast is also available on YouTube and iTunes. Just search for KrassenCast. So should we get right into it, Brian? Yeah, let's start. So earlier this week, Trump had some very strange comments that he made toward American Jews. And for those who don't know, if you look at our name, you can tell that we're Jewish, both Brian and I. And we took offense to some of the things he said. He basically said that Jewish people who vote for Democrats are disloyal. And this whole concept of Jews being disloyal goes back thousands of years. And it's a frequent attack that us as Jews have had to face over the years, over and over and over again. And it continues to happen because of President Donald Trump. So his tweet was that Jews who vote for Democrats show a total lack of knowledge or a great disloyalty. What do you make of that, Brian? I think that it's just hypocritical that this party, the GOP, has attacked Congressman Ilhan Omar, Rashida Tlaib for being anti-Semitic when Trump's making comments like this. Well, it's really disgusting. He says that Jews who vote Democrats are disloyal. But the thing is, most Jews, 75% of the American Jewish population voted Democrat in the 2018 midterm elections. Well, actually, I saw some stats from the exit polls, and it was closer to 80%. But if you don't know, in 2016, Hillary Clinton got 71% of the Jewish vote. And in 2008, Barack Obama got 78% of the Jewish vote. So he's attacking most American Jews when he makes this comment. He's calling us disloyal and essentially ignorant. Since when did the American populace have to be loyal to anybody? Exactly. Much less Jewish Americans. Well, here's the thing. Like I mentioned earlier, the whole idea of Jews having a dual loyalty or being disloyal to their ruler or country dates back thousands of years, and it has been a frequent theme among anti-Semites and white supremacists. For example, if we go back to the Middle Ages, Jews were said that they don't have the ability to be loyal to their ruler. And this was because they said that Jews are intertwined with Jews throughout the whole world, and they have more loyalty to their faith and their religion than those who rule them or the country they live in. So it goes back to that. And then once again, it's happened over and over again, including during the Holocaust, where the Nazis used the whole idea of Jews being disloyal to justify everything that they did, including the gas chambers, including arresting innocent Jewish people. And it's just keeps happening, and Trump is feeding into this. It's like he's using these like catchphrases and tropes, knowing that it's going to cater to those white supremacists and anti-Semites, but it's a dog whistle so that only they can hear it, while
maybe the average American, they say, oh, Jews disloyal. Who cares? That doesn't mean anything.
Well, it's this theme that Trump does. Like you said, a lot of people in the GOP use these dog whistles, which they blow that only the dogs can hear. So, it's a theme that we have to get away from. It's a theme that is not good for this country. And, then on Wednesday, he tweeted something else saying that Jews who live in Israel love him like he's the king of Israel. I mean, come on.
Unbelievable. So my whole thing is that while the GOP, while the president, they're all attacking the squad and Ilhan Omar and Rashida Tlaib, saying they're anti-Semite because they have attacked the government of Israel. They're criticizing the government of Israel, while Trump's actually criticizing American Jews. He's criticizing a religion. That's more anti-Semitic than criticizing a government. Take, for example, if I said,
"Don't get in trouble here, Brian."
The government in Pakistan, they are supporting terrorists. They're supporting causes that are detrimental to the United States, radicalism. Am I being anti-Muslim? Absolutely not. Now, if I said all Muslims are terrorists, that's a different story.
Or Muslims who do something are terrorists just because they don't, or Muslims who vote Republican are terrorists, or Muslims who vote Democrat are terrorists. That would be anti-Muslim.
Well, so Tlaib and Ilhan Omar, they disagree with the way the Israeli government's handling the situation with the Palestinians. They're not saying they don't like Jews. They're not saying that Jewish people are the devil. They're not saying anything negative about Jews. They're saying something negative about the government of the country. And as a Jew myself, I think that the government of Israel could handle the situation.
I think most American Jews are not fans of Netanyahu or the way that Netanyahu is handling things in Israel right now.
You can love the country of Israel. You can love the people of Israel, and you don't have to agree, while not agreeing with the government's position on several topics.
American Jews do not have to be loyal to a government. We don't have to be loyal to anyone.
And as Americans, we can criticize the government of another country if we don't agree with their stance. It doesn't mean we're anti-Semitic.
Well, we're Jewish, so we're obviously not anti-Semitic. Anyhow, I want to bring up something else. Earlier, I mentioned how Jews have voted for Democrats over and over again. Actually, for the president, the last time American Jews as a population supported a Republican president over a Democratic president, do you know what year that was, Brian?
I don't.
1920, when Warren Harding defeated James Cox.
Oh, I remember that.
So it's been close to 100 years since Jewish people actually supported a Republican president. And I want to bring up something else that happened earlier this year. Do you remember when Trump had that speech that he gave in front of American Jews? I forget where it was at, but he called Benjamin Netanyahu your prime minister. Like, no, Netanyahu is not our prime minister. We don't have a prime minister. We have a president, and that president's not doing his job.
Yeah, just because we're Jewish doesn't mean that Benjamin Netanyahu is our prime minister. And it's just ignorant. It's just ignorance.
Yeah, so Trump's using this. He wants to turn Jews against Democrats, but that's obviously not going to happen. And he's trying to make these people who he says are anti-Israel to be the face of the Democratic Party, to kind of steal the Jewish vote away, but that's not going to happen.
I actually see it differently. I think he already knows that he's lost the Jewish vote. Like you said, like 75 to 80% of Jews voted Democrat in 2018. I think he's catering more towards the evangelicals in the United States who want Israel to be controlled by the Jews right now because they see it as an integral part of their religion as well. That's where the whole end of days is supposed to happen, in Jerusalem, in that area. So he's catering those people and knowing that he can pull in that vote. While I don't think he really cares about the Jewish vote. I think he knows that that's long gone.
Yeah, you might be right, and I think you bring up some good points there. But also, did you hear him yesterday? He said that he's the chosen one when it comes to Chinese trade. Like, is he trying to make these Christian voters believe that he is the second coming of God? Oh, wait a minute. He He actually retweeted something about being the second coming of God.
It's insane. It's crazy.
So let's move on a little bit. Let's move on to the whole Greenland debacle.
Yeah, so over the course of the last week or so, you might have heard that President Trump wants to purchase Greenland. And for those who don't know, Greenland's that fairly small island, not very many people. I think 58,000 people live on it. It's in the northern Atlantic, pretty much situated between North America and Europe.
It's very icy.
I actually went there on my honeymoon. You went to
Iceland, Brian.
Iceland, yeah, right.
Iceland and Greenland are two different places. Brian doesn't know this.
But anyway, he criticized Greenland. He criticized the Prime Minister of Denmark for saying that she would not sell Greenland to the United States. But the problem is that Denmark doesn't own Greenland. So Trump floated this idea to aides, supposedly, at the White House.
Wait. So they don't own Greenland? Denmark doesn't own Greenland?
Greenland is pretty much ruling themselves now. Denmark ruled them until 1979, and then now they have self-rule. So
they're like a territory of Denmark. So I guess that would mean that they're kind of like what Puerto Rico is to America.
Correct. So he floated this idea. I think the White House probably leaked this idea to the press just to get an idea of how we'd react to the United States acquiring Greenland. The press pretty much made a joke out of it, saying, "Are you insane? They're not going to sell Greenland to us." And then they kind of said, "Oh no, Trump didn't really say that. He was joking. The media is lying again, like they always say, while the media is telling the truth." And then he gets serious about the idea, and he basically admits that. Now, the funny thing is that he finds out that the Prime Minister of Denmark, Frederiksen, says she won't sell Greenland. Greenland's not going to be sold to the United States. And this is actually what he tweeted after that. Denmark is a very special country with incredible people, but based on Prime Minister Frederiksen's comments that she would have no interest in discussing the purchase of Greenland, I will be postponing our meeting scheduled in 2 weeks for another time. The Prime Minister was able to save a great deal of expense and effort for both the United States and Denmark by being so direct. I thank her for that and look forward to rescheduling something in the future.
Meanwhile, he rolls the red carpet out for Kim Jong-un. He rolls the red carpet out for Vladimir Putin. He defends MBA in Saudi Arabia, yet he's going to call off a meeting with one of our greatest allies because they refuse to sell us an island.
So this is actually what the Prime Minister Frederiksen of Denmark replied to his tweet. And she wrote, "Greenland is not for sale. Greenland is not Danish. Greenland belongs to Greenland."
So essentially, what would happen if, say, the Prime Minister of Denmark came to Trump and proposed the idea of buying Puerto Rico from us? That's essentially what Trump just did. And Trump said, "No, sorry, we're not selling it."
Exactly.
Would she get pissed off and not come visit Trump in America?
So after that comment from the Prime Minister, Trump attacked the Prime Minister, calling her nasty. Where did we hear that before?
I don't know. I think he likes calling women nasty. That's a common theme. He's called several. I think he's called Hillary Clinton nasty before, right?
Well, yeah, and ultimately, I think that this was merely a distraction. Gun control has been in the news. Trump was supposed to be maybe considering new regulations.
Universal background checks are on the table. They're off the table. They're on the table. They're off the table. Wait, what does NRA want? Oh, they're off the table.
Red flag laws he was considering, but suddenly the NRA didn't want it, so he gave that up. So this is a distraction from gun control, maybe immigration, the stuff that's going on the border. I think it's nothing more than a distraction, and he's king of distractions. There's so much crazy stuff to be laughing about and concerned about every day from this White House that you can't focus on one single issue, and nobody can, and it's working.
Yeah, I don't know if it's working, but he thinks it's working at least.
I think it's working. I mean, if any of these single issues happened during a Obama presidency, it would be blown up into the stratosphere.
Yeah, because you're right, because there's so many less of these huge issues going on at a time, and it's like every single day there's multiple issues. Like just what in the last 48 hours, there's been what, like 5 different things: the whole Denmark thing, the whole Jewish thing. He backed out of the background checks after talking to the head of the NRA. I mean, what else? The list just goes on and on and on, and just keeps happening. Every day, all this stuff happens.
Yeah. So basically, the guy's nuts. He's probably a little bit off his rocker.
All right, so I think we're going to move on to a section that we don't normally do in our podcast, but since we're starting to hold these podcasts live on Facebook, it's something we felt was interesting to do. We're going to answer questions that some of our listeners have. I'm going to start off. You want to start off and read the first question, Brian?
Yeah, the first question came to us from a Tom Gilfillan. Sorry about Gilfillan. Who decides that a sitting president is physically, mentally, or morally unfit to serve?
Well, that depends. It depends on if you're directing this to the government's responsibility or to our responsibility as Americans. So it could be through impeachment, and Congress would decide that through impeachment hearings. The House of Representatives would vote to impeach, and then it would go to the Senate, and 2/3 of the Senate would have to vote him out of office. And right now, that's probably not going to happen. He might be impeached, but he won't be voted out of office. It can also happen if his cabinet feels as though he is unfit to be president, and through the implementation of the 25th Amendment. And that's probably not going to happen either, because his cabinet's not going to turn on him right before an election.
They're all allies. He's bringing in people who aren't going to do that.
Exactly. So the third and final and most important way to hold a president responsible, and to, if he's unfit to be president, get him out of office, is to vote somebody else in. And that falls on our shoulders. And every other American citizen over the age of 18, it's their job to vote in the next election, in this case, 2020. So if you feel he's unfit, you can do something about it.
Right. All right. So the next question comes from Deborah Silverson.
Brian's really bad at these names. It's Deborah Siverson. Let me say the names from now on, Brian.
All right, deal. Does anyone know what Vice President Pence has to say about Trump saying that he is the chosen one and he is the second coming?
We don't know what he has to say. I don't think anybody's actually asked him about this yet. But Pence, being the huge religious fanatic, I guess you could say that he is, it would be interesting to hear what he has to say.
Wait. Does Mike Pence even speak?
Yeah, he's been speaking a lot lately, but it's like to people who just want to hear him speak, I guess. Anyhow, I think it was yesterday or the day before, Trump actually tweeted a quote from a man named Wayne Allen Root, which said, quote unquote, "President Trump is the greatest president for Jews and for Israel in the history of the world, not just America. He is the best president for Israel in the history of the world, and the Jewish people in Israel love him like he's the king of Israel. They love him like he is the second coming of God. But American Jews don't know him or like him. They, American Jews, don't even know what they're doing or saying anymore. It makes no sense." So Trump tweeted this quote. So this is on top of him saying that Jews are disloyal and ignorant. He's now saying that American Jews don't know what they're doing or saying anymore.
It's insane.
It's like the president of the United States is an anti-Semite. I mean, if he's not an anti-Semite, he's really stupid, and he's saying things that are anti-Semitic when he doesn't mean to. Either way, he shouldn't be president.
Right. All right, our next question, let's move on, is from Sean Bivens. I'm going to say the name this time. I could pronounce it. What do you suppose is keeping Moscow Mitch's feet cemented to the ground? What is his fear?
What do you think?
I don't know. I think this could go multiple ways. I think that, one, the GOP loves Trump. So I don't really see a reason for him to not follow Trump's lead. I think it's 90%, maybe 90% or so of the Republican voters support the president and say he's doing a good job. His approval rating is 90%, I think. So Moscow Mitch McConnell, he has no reason, if he wants to get reelected, to go against the president.
Well, I think by saying cemented into the ground, I think Sean's referring to probably the fact that he won't let these common sense gun reform measures hit the Senate floor. He won't let election meddling measures hit the the Senate floor, even to be discussed or voted upon. And I think the reason for that is because he doesn't want to put Republicans in the precarious situation of having to vote and go on record. I think that's a main reason, because if this bill comes to this floor, okay, do we want background checks? And Republicans are forced to vote on it. They know that 90% of Americans support universal background checks, but these Republicans are also getting a huge paycheck from the NRA. So do they vote with the NRA, but also vote against what their constituents think is a good idea? Or do they vote with their constituents like they should and give up that check from the NRA? I think that's a hard situation.
Right. And if there's a vote and all these Republican senators, many who I think 22 are going to come up for re-election next November, in November of 2020, if they have to say, no, I don't want gun control, I don't want this, I don't want that, and the voters do want it, they're going to go on record as doing that. And then think about the commercials and the ads.
Like a Democrat can put out an ad. Senator such and such voted against universal background checks. He voted against securing our elections. So, it's fodder that the Democrats can use in campaign ads. And Mitch McConnell realizes it. He doesn't have the country's best interest at heart. He doesn't have the interests of the average American who wants election security and who thinks background checks are a good idea. He has the interest of re-electing Republicans in the upcoming election.
Yeah, it's all power and money, and that's all he cares about. He doesn't care about. It doesn't appear that he cares about his constituents, the country. He cares about having power and money.
Exactly.
All right, so the next question is from Marcy Key. What is one thing you would change in our government, and would you work with Trump to push legislation through?
Well, we don't have that option because you're not in the government.
I think personally, if I could have my way, I think dark money in politics is so important to get out of politics. I mean, right now, we don't know if foreign governments are funding candidates. And why should a foreign government have any say whatsoever over how much money these politicians can spend to try and cater to the American people?
Yeah, and there's a good idea. What's a congressman we interviewed in one of these episodes who had the idea of democracy dollars? Do you recall his name?
Yeah, that was Ro Khanna.
Yeah, Ro Khanna has this idea of democracy dollars where everybody is given money to donate to candidates. So it levels the playing field when it comes to donations that go to candidates, and it lets the average American have just as much say as the next average American, and as these corporations do.
Right. So you're talking corporation. I'm talking dark money from foreign governments. But I think that both funds from corporations as well as from foreign governments, they're both detrimental to the fairness of these elections. And I think something has to be done. But the GOP won't do anything because they're relying heavily on it. Even Democrats are rely sometime on it.
It's not just corporations either. What about organizations like the NRA? And then you could say on the other side, Planned Parenthood. I think money should come from individuals to candidates,
and it should be capped like it is right now. There should be no super PACs. Every American should be able to donate up to a certain amount of money and make it a smaller amount, $2,000, whatever. I think it's $2,700 right now. Keep it at that. But that way, it's a more of a democratic process. You're not getting $100 million donated from a Sheldon Adelson.
Yeah, well, why should wealthy people have more say in our government than somebody who's not as well off? Why should huge corporations have more say in our government than Joe Schmo who, he's unemployed? Why should I think everybody should have equal say. That's how a democracy should work.
Right. If you're going to allow donations and money in politics, then you got to make it a fair system. You can't it should be democratic, just like our voting system's democratic.
Yeah, so would we work with Trump on this? Absolutely, if we were in a position to do so, but he obviously wouldn't because he's relying on all this money from the NRA and other corporations and other multi-millionaires out there.
Right. All right, so next question is from Rich Fisher, and he says, with so many close races, do you think the Democrats have any chance of winning the Senate? And what are our chances of getting anything done without both houses?
I think there's a chance. I don't know how good it is. What do you think?
I think that there's a decent shot at Democrats winning both houses. I think the House they're going to probably win for sure. The Senate, I'd give them maybe a 40% chance.
Yes. So how's it broken down? Currently, there's 53 Republican senators and 47 Democrats. In this upcoming election, there's 34 seats up for grabs out of these 100. So essentially 34% of the seats are up for grabs. And 22 of them are held by the GOP, and 12 of them only are held by Democrats. So in order for the Democrats to regain the majority, they need to get 3 to 4 seats. Now, it's 3 seats if Trump wins re-election. It's 4 seats if a Democrat, other way around. It's 4 seats if Trump wins re-election. It's 3 seats if a Democrat wins the presidency, because the vice president has the tie-breaking vote in any vote.
Yeah, so there's definitely a chance, and I think some of the key states are going to be important. Texas, I think if Beto O'Rourke dropped out and ran, he'd win Texas.
I do too.
And that would be so important for the Senate.
He's already said, he came forward recently and said he's not going to do that.
Right, but I think that some of these other people should also consider running for the Senate.
Well, did you see that John Hickenlooper just announced that he's dropping out of the race for president and he's going to run for Senate in Colorado?
Yeah, and that's great. We need more of that.
I think he has a really good shot, because he was a governor of Colorado, and he had a lot of support there.
Yeah, the 2-term governor. He has a lot of experience. So there is a chance. And like I said, I think it's 35 to 40% chance. The best way to ensure that it goes Democrats' way is you have to get out and vote.
Yeah, so I think that would probably be it for this episode of KrassenCast. Again, remember to follow us on Facebook. You can search on Facebook just search for Krassenstein Brothers. And on iTunes, search for KrassenCast. And on YouTube, if you want to watch it on YouTube, you can just search for KrassenCast as well. We plan on doing these episodes more and more, and we plan on having interviews again. I know we've gotten away from the interviews because we took such a long break, so we weren't really talking to other people to get them to come on the show, but we plan on having interviews again as well.
Yep. Thanks again.